welcome to the Resilient Mental State Podcast. I'm Kyle Shepard, husband, father, and resilience instructor of over 10 years. Join me as I sit down with writers, independent thinkers, and extraordinary individuals to discuss their unique wisdom through the lens of resilience. Resilience is the ability to effectively manage and recover from stress. It is essential to endure and grow from life's inevitable adversities. Resilience is a skill that can be trained.
Zach Homol. A little over a year ago, probably like a year and a half ago, I was on Substack, and the beautiful algorithm decides to give me a video when I log on of this jack dude holding an enormous kettlebell, making it look like it's about 5 pounds, as he then progresses into a pistol squat while holding it in front of him. And then as you, because you are this guy, stand back up out of it, you shoulder it, press it above your head, and then you're balancing on one leg as everyone in your gym takes a picture of you. And immediately I saw that video. I'm like, man, this is an interesting dude. How did he even do that? Because I couldn't do pistol squats very well without weight at that time. So I immediately subscribed to your account and do hard things. And very quickly I realized not only are you doing cool movements like that, but you have a whole host of powerlifting records, and you've done really cool things in the fitness world, primarily in strength, and then transitioning into more endurance stuff lately. But more importantly, reading your work, I realized that you're not just some fitness influencer. You're someone through your Substack account, Do Hard Things, promotes fatherhood, being a good husband, faith, and really life fulfillment in all domains. So you use fitness as a vehicle to be a man worthy of a good life. And through your podcast, through what you've done with Iron Valley Barbell, and the community that you've built with Do Hard Things, the retreats that you go on, it's so cool to see how you weave all the aspects of what you've done in the past, but more importantly, what you're doing now to be a good husband, a good father, and a good man, which makes me a truly big fan of both your work and you, and it's an honor to get to talk to you today, brother.
Oh, dude, thanks. That pistol squat video is so funny. I was like, wonder where you're going with this. What video is this? That was a day we were hosting an event for a sales team. There was like 30 or 40 of these guys. And I love doing these with this guy named Mike Paquette that I connected with. Young dude, super successful in the space in sales. And he's like, hey, you want to host an event with my team? And these guys are between 18 and 21, 22. And I'm like, that would be great because I don't often get to influence that crowd. And I like to hang around with younger people because it makes me want to be young, and that there's like something about the human spirit as they get late 20s, early 30s, and you really see it into the 40s too. It's like it starts to like erode and die, and like it's almost like that zest is not there. But that younger spirit, like the mid 20s, lower 20s, these guys are still like super fired up, man. And like, it's almost like life hasn't beat them down a lot. So I think it's really important to be connecting with the younger crowd, to get that and to feel that zest, but also to be connecting with the older crowd. Like I have friends in their 60s and 70s, ton of wisdom, you know what I mean? But anyways, we're doing it that day. All these younger guys, I'm like, wow, these dudes are strong. Like they're all like deadlifting 500-600 pounds. And I was like, here's what I'll do. So I went and showed out and did the pistol squat that day. I got a little respect for them, and I gave them a talk after, but I feel like if I didn't do the pistol squat before, they wouldn't have given me, the respect on the talk. So you still got to show up.
Yeah, you got some credibility. I learned at that time that was 90 pounds, and you, after that, you've done as much as 175-pound pistol squat, which is nuts. But I love the point that you make about hanging around the younger crowd and the zest and like the passion for life that they have. How old are you?
34.
34. I'm turning 40 here in a month. And I agree with you. It's funny to like see your friends or people a little older than you and kind of how they get after it, what they're interested in as we age. We have families and jobs. So jujitsu, the gym, and other things where I'm around younger guys and girls, I find myself having conversations sometimes. And every once in a while I'll bring in like, yeah, it's about our age. And I talk to these kids and like we're 20, bro. You're about 40, but like they also treat me like I'm their age too. And I get that from them. And without realizing it, my dad's almost 80 years old and he does the same thing. He thinks like he's still 20. Where do you think that comes from? Do you think it's from being around that? Because at 34, and you describe it the way you did, we can benefit from the wisdom, of course, people have with our own experience and people that are older. But why do some people like seem to want to stay younger or even act and behave younger? Where does that come from?
For me, just from like being competitive. My buddy Mike Donatelli, he'll probably watch his back. He's one of the best athletes I know. Former really good wrestler out of Chicago. And he's, I don't know, he's probably like 25 right now, maybe 26. And we've been hanging together for years. And he's just such an athlete. And, I'll do cool things and guys are like, wow, you're great. And I'm like, you should see my buddy Mike. He keeps me young because he's always like pushing the limits. Like so many times he'll come over. I'm like, dude, I'm at 28,000 steps today. He's like, dude, I'm at 31,000 steps today. I'm like, of course you are, And for me, it's to keep that competitive edge. I love to compete. I've been competing in a sport, baseball, basketball, football, boxing, um, powerlifting, strongman, Ironman, ultra marathons since the age of, since the age of 4. I'm 34, so 30 years of competition. And I'm not like good at most things. I was good at powerlifting, strongman. I was a super average athlete at everything else. And I'm a below average ultra marathoner and Ironmaner. But I love being out there, man. I love doing the thing. I love pushing myself. And when I surround myself with these younger guys, they naturally just have that. And, half of them are like, not Mike in particular, but some of the other younger guys that's in the gym or just around, they're like not really working real jobs yet either, or have families. So they have all the time to train. And so it's easier for them but they're
Yeah.
at that different level. So I like to attach myself to that because it raises my expectations. I'll tweet this or put this on Substack. And if you don't know me, you might take offense to this. I'll say 500-pound deadlift's not heavy. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're such a bad person, for what? But I'm also like a 6-minute mile's not fast and I don't run that. You know what I mean? I don't feel bad about it. It's kind of this whole idea though that we should raise our expectations because if I think 500's heavy, I'm gonna spend my whole life at 485. But at our gym, we're like, no, everyone's doing 700 here. So 500 is just a stepping stone to that. When I'm around the younger guys and my buddies are running 3-hour marathons and I'm like running a 4-hour marathon, I'm like, wow, like I can see how I can get there now because I'm surrounded by this person. So that's one reason why I like to hang with the younger dudes, but also just the zest of life. They got dreams, man. They got passions. Like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to go do that. And I'm like, that's it right there. Cause I still feel that way. And I have the business, I have a conference, I speak, I do all these different things, but I'm always intrigued of doing something next. I'm like, I wonder if I could live off grid for a year. I have all these different ideas of like trying to do different challenges and to push myself and to still dream. And that younger spirit still has that. And not that you can't when you're older. I mean, I think I'm, whatever, 34 and I still have that spirit. And like you talked about yourself and even your father. So there's people out there doing it. And I just want to attract and attach myself to those people who are doing it.
The power of community and being around people who are doing that, it can be kind of part of the culture, part of the air. And it seems like you are doing that exactly with Iron Valley Barbell. And that was 10 years ago now that you moved from West Virginia in order to start up that gym. And I believe I read earlier on when I was reading your stuff, you were a coal miner in West Virginia.
Yeah,
And
this is actually my thermos from the coal mines.
oh, yeah? Same one from what you had over 10 years ago, covered in those stickers. Looks like a nice big one. So keep you going as you're doing that there. What motivated you to pick up shop, go and invest everything that you had in starting this gym at the time when you didn't know whether or not it'd be successful?
Dude, I love coal mining. Coal mining is a great job. A lot of people are like, oh, that would have to be awful. I was like, no, it's actually where I'm from. Like, if you go in the coal mines, like I had a house when I was 19. I bought a house. And so I kind of like was, I don't know, fast tracking in life. I was ambitious. The coal mine gives a plethora of opportunities to grow. Like you get to learn. I was a underground firefighter because it's obviously cold. Like there's a fire, like someone has to fight it. So I'd be in all these classes and like closed confinement space and getting these certifications. And you just get to learn how to run heavy equipment and all these different machines. And it gave me purpose. I was kind of lost at this time too as a young man. I was a wild man, just a wild guy. Like not a alcoholic or drug addict, but I dabbled in everything. Like
Yeah.
I was just really all in on whatever I was doing, lifting, partying, like I had to be the best at it. And the coal mine gave me some order, you know, you're working midnight shifts, you're working swing shifts, you're working 10, 12 hours a day. So I loved coal mining, and I can only look back and say that that was such an important part of my identity as a person, what it taught me, what I learned from those experiences, those other guys. It was such a masculine job, dude. When I see like some of the people in corporations and what they struggle with, I was like, you wouldn't last a day in the coal mines. I mean, they'll just rip it from you, man. That was cool too, you know. So I was only guys are underground. There's no girls, so it's just very like masculine energy. Which like my do our things community, it's all guys, and so it kind of like fits my personality type a lot. So I love coal mining, but we were at that point where we were working swing shift, midnight, afternoon, day, and we had one day off. And if you switch from midnight to day shift, or day shift to midnight shift rather, well, you get like 10 hours, 12 hours off, and then you're like back in the mines again. And I was just down there one day, and I knew I was being called for more. Like, you're really gonna spend like your whole life like living in a hole, you know? You live down here, and I did a powerlifting competition. I had met the guy who was the president of Muscle Farm, and he was once a coal miner too, ironically. So we got connected, and I was just kind of sharing with him strength training advice, like things I had just learned over the years, and he was like, attracted to it or inspired by it. Made him created a connection, and I actually got a sales job for Muscle Farm in Indianapolis in 2015. So that's how I got out here and the sales job. And after working there 9 months, the company cut sales positions across the board. And I'm like, okay, it was before Christmas. And I was like, okay, like, what am I going to do? And I just knew the one thing that like, I wasn't going to go work for somebody else again. I never really believed in job security because in the coal mines, depending on who was in the elections and stuff, like we're kind of in the Obama era too. Like it wouldn't be uncommon to get laid off, maybe a couple days or a week, but that wouldn't be uncommon. And to hear about other miners would say like, hey, like whoever's in administration, what the company's privately owned, like, it's not uncommon to get laid off. So I never believed in job security either. So I said, I feel just as secure, like doing it my own way and failing than having somebody else do it their way and me failing because of it. So that's when I started moving a little bit more into like opening the gym. At this time, if I rewind, I was creating content online since like 2010, 2011. I started like right around I got out of high school. I was Instagram. I think I got like 15-second videos and Snapchat. I love Snapchat. I don't have it anymore, but I had like 25,000 people on my Snapchat. Like I was building a following for years, just like giving like hype, motivational videos, probably half kicked in the ass, probably shouldn't have given anybody advice. I was just all hyped up and encouraging people and telling them to do hard things and go win the day. Win the day was my slogan before do hard things. My mom gave it to me. I adopted it from her. And that was cool. So I lost my job and I was like, okay, I see all these goofballs online selling online fitness programs. Like I didn't know it was a thing, but I saw these people doing it. So I was like, I'm going to not put out my workout of the day. I was on Snapchat. On Snapchat, I was like, I'm not going to put that out and let's just see what happens. And I didn't put it out. And I had all these people hitting me up like, dude, where's the workout? Where's the workout? And I said, oh, I'm actually, I don't have a job right now. So I'm using this as coaching. Would you, I didn't know sales or I was in sales, but I wasn't really good. And people are like, oh, I would love to. So overnight, I built a book of over 70 people, like literally like in 2 or 3 days. My business just launched. But it had to do with the 5 years prior, I was given free workouts and, I was setting records in powerlifting. Like I was doing the thing. So the business, I started basically online before I started the gym. The gym was because I was isolated working online and was missing that human connection. Like in the coal mines, I had so much of that. In India, I didn't have that. So that's how the gym birthed was actually after I started the online coaching. And I just kind of stumbled into it. And most of everything I've done has kind of just stumbled into.
That that's really incredible in that I was thinking do hard things birth because of the gym. And so you had a community built already using the technology that's available to you in West Virginia. And so you started early. I mean, if it was in 2010, 2011, when you were already building a community as you were, I assume very much powerlifting related. Um, but you had the community, and then the gym birthed because the community needed more, outside the clients and the coaching that you had. And you said your mom gave you, Do Hard Things?
She gave me Win the Day.
Oh, she gave you Win the Day.
Yeah, man, my mom's the coolest. She works 3 jobs. At this time, she's working 3 jobs. I'm like 13, and my mom's just giving me wisdom from the kitchen, man. You know, that good wisdom when she's
Oh,
cooking and cleaning, and she's just like, "Anything you set your mind to, bud, you'll be able to accomplish." You know, she works so hard for our family, and I always just believed in that. But she'd leave like 5 in the morning, and then she'd come home for like an hour to cook for us after her work day, and then she'd go back to work again and wouldn't get home till like 9 o'clock. Then she'd tuck us in. But every morning, dude, she'd always had a smile on her face. She's always like, "Go win the day." Like, you know, all we can do is control what we got. And we said, we got to win the day. And it was a mindset. So I remember telling her that time, dude, I was like, "Man, mom, one day I'm going to figure this thing out. And like, you're just not have to work anymore." And I actually fulfilled on that like 4 or 5 years ago. Like my mom doesn't work anymore, doesn't have to work. She still works part-time because she enjoys being out there. But I, you know, retired my mom in 2020, 2021, because she like instilled that type of belief into me that like I can do anything I set my mind to and like win the day. So it's this opportunity that the days don't really just happen to us. We get to choose how they happen to us. And I didn't have a community, by the way, prior to whenever I had the gym. I
oh,
had a fall I guess people were following me
oh, yeah,
online.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, but not like I wasn't getting paid for it or like none of that. I wasn't like hosting any type of things. It was just, you know, like sharing content on Substack and, you know, people vibed with it or didn't, and yeah.
Yeah. And so where did Do Hard Things come from? And when did
Right.
that come?
Yeah, so do hard things. Okay, so I have the gym going on now from 2016 to 2020. We're crushing it, you know, we're hosting Saturday 10 a.m. leg days. And my friends Dylan, Charlie, Jay, all these guys just I'm coaching them online, but now they start moving to Indianapolis just to be a part of what I'm doing, you know, mid-20s guy just building something, and they're like, "I wanna come build too." I'm like, "Great, like, come build." So we're all, like, hosting Saturday 10 a.m. leg day, and, for a while, no one's showing up. Kyle, it's just me, like, I'm just taking pictures like, "Yo, hope to catch you guys next week," you know? And, next week, like, never came, it felt like, but one day, people started coming, and then I was just doing open floor coaching, and I would just be coaching guys Saturday 10 leg day, and it started catching on. And then, man, after like you know, a few months to a year, we started getting people like really just traveling from out of state to be a part of 10 a.m. leg day. Obviously, building online, so now they're coming there, and then the community Indianapolis is starting to recognize it as well. So more of these people are coming and showing up. And I'm just open floor coaching. I'm pretty good at deadlifting, so people were listening to my advice. They were getting stronger. And I remember looking out one day and we started counting. We had like 40 people in my gym's like the small type of gym that you need a tetanus shot to go into. Like this is not like some fancy box gym, dude. This is like it still is like you go in, you're like, they need to clean the place, man. Like it's a hardcore environment. It's really just what I want. And it's a private facility now, but I'll get to that. So, anyways, we're hosting Saturday Tim like day. People are coming to the gym, they're getting results. And we look around one day, man, and we have people from like a dozen different states, and then we have people from Canada, the UK, and Australia, and obviously the United States, all there at the same time. And you're like, holy cow! Like, how did this happen? And a couple guys were just there for work trips, but nonetheless, they were still there, you know. And like, wow, this thing's building, this thing's growing. So I'm started hosting basically an event a week at that time. I think it was Saturday Tam Leg Day. Well, then COVID happens. When COVID happens, this whole idea, you know, we're non-essential. My wife was a hairstylist at the time, so she's not working. I'm not working. I have to figure it out. So I just like go right to what I know at the time. Like I was already creating, obviously, I was coaching people, creating online PDFs. So I just created at-home workout. Create at-home workout that kind of sparks some sales. It gets some momentum going. But then people are hitting me up like, dude, I really miss leg day, or they can tell like the community aspect. Guys were just starving for this, man, at that time during COVID. So I saw a need. I never planned on having like an online group or the Do Hard Things community. That was never a plan of mine. I just saw a need during COVID. Guys were reaching out, lonely, isolated. I was doing like a ton of one-off coaching calls. So I was like, let me go and just build something here. So I built a 12-week group. I called it Life Group. And guys, like we had like 30 guys join this thing, man. Like people came from all over and we're just talking, you know, how we're navigating COVID and being isolated and what that looks like, how we're leading our families. My stance was probably what you'd see of me, what I would think about COVID. I thought it was a scam. I was like, I'm not kind of playing along with this. And everybody can have their own opinions. That's fine. But that's how I chose to go about it, and I kind of planted my flag. At that time on Twitter, I had 44,000 followers. They canceled me on Twitter. So the Twitter account I have now is a brand new account. I got canceled on Twitter because of my beliefs and stuff. So whatever. So I was kind of like just planting my flag though, like, no, this is what I believe in, man, and this is what I'm doing, and people were attracted to that. So that's how the community started getting birthed. I started hosting those life groups, and then guys are like, man, this is good, but I'm still alone. Like I still need like human connection. So in 2021, like kind of in the height of the whole thing, dude, I started hosting the Do Hard Things retreats. I just called them retreats at the time, men's trips. And I went to Colorado. They're like, the most anti, place. And I'm like, let's go to the mountains of Colorado. And since then I've hosted over 70 retreats. So the retreat business, I guess, wasn't really even a business when it started. I just called all my friends and be like, hey, here's how much everything costs. I'm gonna put it on. I'm gonna make a few extra $1,000 if you guys come. I was just honest with them, like, what it'd be. They're like, I'm there. And then from there, man, I just started hosting them like every other month. I just had retreats going on throughout that time. And then that naturally rolled into becoming the Do Hard Things community, which is now just like a consistent ongoing group where I host a couple events per year. And then the conference burst out of that, the Do Hard Things conference in Colorado Springs. I just stumbled into all of it. I just saw the need. My friends were isolated, alone. I was isolated. I was alone. I was like, here's what we can do about it. Some type of monkey has to, orchestrate this thing. I'll be that guy. And I just kind of became that guy who created and curated the event. I love hosting experiences. I love helping people like feel seen and valued and curating an environment to grow in. So it's like a spiritual gift of mine. So I just played the part, and one thing led to the next, and it all happened by accident. It really wasn't like this massive plan. It just happened. And even how I run my business now, man, like, where are you gonna be in 10 years? Like, oh, I don't know. Like, I know where I'm be next year. I pivot to the need. It's kind of like a river that's flowing. Like it doesn't flow straight. It flows to the least resistance. So I'm just looking, like, I already do hard things. So I'm already strengthening my mind, my body, my spirit. And then I'm just flowing. And whenever a path is not right, the river turns. And that's kind of how I've just operated in business. I saw a problem and then I created a solution. And this allows me to not like do things I don't know how to do. Like I don't want to try to pretend to be something I'm not. And this way of going allows me to stay authentic and organic to myself and do the things that I know how to do.
Mm. So good. I love origin stories about people or things that they've created, and the fact that all of this is so organic and relatively unplanned. And I really appreciate the mindset that you said. You already do hard things, so like that's not a problem for you. If you didn't have that, then this may be a little bit more difficult to happen organically. But because you're already doing challenging things for your mind, body, and spirit, I laughed when you're talking about 10 a.m. leg day on Saturdays, and initially no one shows up. So I have a functional fitness group, and in the early days, yeah, I'd go in there, bring my kids, and no one from the gym or the community shows up, and still get after it, still keep showing up. But then you're doing hard things around that. You're still promoting the business, doing the work online, whatever it may be, and you help grow it organically through the work that you're doing, but also by continuing to show up and being authentic to who you are. And then over time, we have a lot of things in our control where you can do what you need to do to promote, but COVID hits or all these other environmental factors come. And it's great to have goals in the future, but if you can't pivot, if you can't adjust for whatever that plan might be, you're going to be shit out of luck before you know it, because things for sure are going to force you to change. So being able to flow, having the foundation of being able to do hard things and then figure out what is the best path for what you're working on. That's why you grow and have so many different components of the Do Hard Things community and those retreats. Seeing some of the feedback that you get from the people that have gone to them, seeing some of the posts that you've had about kind of after action reports, they sound incredible. So you did a bunch of them during COVID, and then just organically it's slowed down a little bit and you make them bigger throughout the year.
Yeah, I still do a couple of years. So I do now. So I have one open retreat to the public a year. It's called the Recharge Retreat, and it's kind of like a compilation of all of the personal development stuff I've been doing over the years. Like we get about 10, 12 guys go, and typically it's like like this year, for instance, I think we have 2 or 3 new guys. A lot of these are like residuals, guys like, oh, this is my thing. It's my date on the calendar. I come back, I get to recharge each year. And we do hikes, which we do a couple hard hikes, of course, you gotta push it. But then we do like darkness meditations. So I sat in a cave for a week in total darkness on a couple different occasions, and I get so much value from destimulating, being off my phone. One of my metrics of success is how many days a year do I spend off my phone? And last year was almost 150 days, which is pretty easy to get, 52 weeks in a year, 2 days on the weekends, plus a week or 2 here and there. Like, people could be off their phone way more than they think. We just choose not to. And even myself, even I choose not to. And I still struggle with that, if you will. But that's a metric of success of mine. So I just kind of simulate this environment. I like to do breath work, ice baths, saunas. A lot of people are hating on ice baths right now. I never sold out. I love freezing. I don't do it for the physical benefits. I do it for the mindset, man. I do everything for the mindset. The physical benefits are a secondary thing. So I host and I curate this experience, and I have a co-host with me who does all the cooking and cleaning. So it's truly an all-inclusive experience, typically with guys that you already know, or then you get to meet at that retreat, who are you guys, you meet where you're at. Like, that guy doesn't know you from high school, man. He knows you from right here, right now. And it's amazing that whenever we come into that experience, I think with good soil, like, hey, we're here to grow. That's the reason why we're here. It's amazing. Grown men are vulnerable. We're connecting and we're growing. It's not like one of those weirdo trips, man, where guys are holding each other in the pool and shit. It ain't one of those, dude. Like, we're regular dudes just needing to get away for a week to refill. And I'm always like, hey, we come back stronger, from those experiences. But then I also host an expedition, which I call like a middle-aged man's rites of passage. And people are like, well, what does that even mean? Like, well, my question is, like, how many men never have rites of passage? Like, their fathers or family never curated rites of passage as a kid. I think we need that too, and that's something I'm interested in maybe doing in the future, is curating that for the younger generation. But right now, I do it for the older guys and whatever age, 20 to 60, it doesn't matter. Whoever wants to go do something hard for a few days. We climb Pikes Peak Mountain, we ice bath in natural streams, and we whitewater raft, we mountain bike. We essentially do so many hard things over 4 or 5 days that you need a break when you get home. Like, there's a small element of like, you're gonna live, you're not gonna die. But there's some moments of it, you're like, if I take a wrong step, I'm falling off this mountain. It's a 14,000 foot mountain. So I also host that experience. That one right now, kind of the sales team I was talking about earlier, like, they bring their guys each year to that. So that's a cool opportunity I've been doing recently. And then I host a couple other events for my community, and they're in town here in Indianapolis. I just hosted training camp. We did 37 miles over 24 hours. We've been running a lot. My community is not even runners. It's just a hard thing to do. So we're just running more. I'm getting skinnier. I hosted right out my house. The guy's getting Airbnb down the street. And I just think it's really important that if people are following me, they just know who I am. And there's no way to show who you are better than to welcome people into your home. And, my wife's cooking sourdough for us. My son's running around, high-fiving, I teach him how to shake men's hands. Like, it's just kind of like, this is who I am, and in those environments too, you can be very like, hands down. Like, I ain't got to put on a face or nothing. It's kind of who I am. And I've recognized that our culture, maybe our society at large, is yearning for realness, man. Like, for everything's photoshopped and fake. And I'm just going the opposite direction. Why everyone else is, not that I'm against Claude. I use Claude for all my landing pages, man. Like, I'm not against AI, but why everyone goes that way, I'm like, great, let's do more stuff in person. It just feels more true. And I also think from a business standpoint, it's a better play. It's a much better play in the future. So I do host a bunch of events a year. We don't do Saturday 10 a.m. leg day anymore. That's kind of something I put a nail in the coffin on. Having a family, my Saturdays, dude, are Saturday 10 a.m. is probably the best time to go for a family walk.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of sacrifice, as you sure know and can relate to, and you have a family. Like, you start to drop some things that you once held so dear and near to you, which is also why I try not to do like 10-year plans or 5-year plans, because more kids come up, or, I don't know, anything happens. I just want to be able to adjust to that as it comes up.
My favorite thing about you is how authentic you are. So you already mentioned it, but whether it's your writing, whether it's your videos, your content, it feels as real as can be. So while I'm just talking to you for the first time, we've texted, we message each other on Substack and stuff. I'm not surprised by anything I'm hearing. It feels like I've known you because I've read your work for over a year, and you are exactly what you say. There's no salesman to it, even though you have been a salesman, but it's it's all authentic. So even if you are selling products, it's still how are you doing that and how you do everything. You don't say things that you're not doing. I love that you're always exploring. So yeah, you're a power lifter, and then you have all your power lifters running and doing endurance events now, which you're leaning into more these days. You're just finding the next hard thing to help grow your mind, body, and spirit. And the fact that you actually are walking that walk helps the talk that you're talking be that much more powerful. And what you lean into most as you're doing all these things for the community, the world, the gym, Substack, you see the prioritization of your family first and foremost in everything that you're doing. And I think I put it on one of your posts recently, all these amazing like endurance things that you've done recently, the steps that you're getting and miles that you're getting per week are wild. And for someone who tried to lean into endurance more these past few years and continued to, I find myself challenged sometimes of like, how do I get out there for 4 or 5 hours to get all these miles in? I'm not willing to do it if I'm away from my family. And then I'm get reminded by people like you can get a lot of those miles in with your family. So you're going on these hikes, you're wearing your son, you guys are doing it through the trails together, and you're logging really impressive numbers. The only guy beating you probably is your buddy Mike. And but the first things first for you, and you do it with your family. You're throwing your son up, you're holding your wife up above your head, you're doing active things with them. So all of like you said, fitness is a byproduct for training the mind. And all of the training that we're doing is the purpose for it, usually as husbands and fathers, is so we can show up best for our family. We go to work so we can make money to support our lives and our family. And then we tend to forget by prioritizing these training, this business, these efforts, like we're spending all this time and energy away from our most important priority. So that part of your message is why you're so much more than a fitness influencer. You are a life influencer, and you live what you preach. So thank you for that, brother.
Man, that's a good word, dude. Thanks. I appreciate that. I love training with the kids, man. It's, throwing them on the back and hiking, or we do at least 1 or 2 family walks a day. We live in town in our little suburb outside of Indianapolis, and we walk through neighborhoods, like our neighborhood, and then an old neighborhood, and then we go across like the most bustling part of our town. Like, there's like a couple burger shops and coffee shops there, and we get to go through that, and we have to press the little button. My kid loves to press like wait, and then you can cross. And then we pop down into this awesome park that they just maintenance so well. Our community is doing such a good job with stuff like that. And there's a 1 mile trail down there, and there's a creek. And I want my kid to I grew up playing in the creek, man, from West Virginia. Like, we catch crawdads, and you got that water that you're in that water. You don't need a tetanus shot, man. You got it already. And we're down there playing in the creek every day. So we do 4 to 8 miles a day as a family. So we spend 2 to 4 hours a day walking and playing at the park. So my pace ain't incredible. That's why I'm slow too, because most of my training efforts are very slow. But my family's included. It's super good for my wife and I's conversations and our mind. One little nugget, how this kind of started, not maybe originated, but a lot of it was happening like when there was friction with my wife and I. Sitting across from somebody is it's like it's a position of confrontation, shoulder to shoulder is confrontation. Like when I'm looking at you like this, squared up, there's that's like a confrontational position. Whereas I realize if we're in confrontation and we need to kind of come to a resolve, if we were walking shoulder to shoulder, side by side at the same pace, looking in the same direction, since we're bound here to earth and there's like a physical element of being here, I try to bring more, because I'm a fitness guy too. I like to bring more physicality into just my day-to-day life. So like that way of connecting and communicating, we're both walking the same direction. We're walking shoulder to shoulder, and we're in public, so we can't be screaming too loud, right? It's just like there's like a gut check. We was able to resolve so much just on walks, and that kind of really helped maybe birth some of what what we'll do, and why we handle confrontation that way. And now on a day-to-day basis, it's like we just have those walks baked into our life. So it almost feels like then we're talking more. So since we're communicating more and better, less and less confrontation, just period, like in our life. Like that's kind of years ago, my wife and I went to couples counseling before we were married. We're like, we need tools because we suck, like we got to be better for each other. So we're in couples counseling, and the counselor said, one day you two, because you love this so much and you want to grow, you'll end up being each other's like counsel buddies. And every once in a while, my wife just laughs, like, oh, we're each other's counsel buddies because we're, now we can kind of just have those type of conversations that are challenging or hard while we're on a walk or doing whatever. So all of this to say, like, we're killing many birds with one stone. Like, we're taking Ambrose out to play at the creek, going for walks. We're getting keeping in decent health. Most of my wife's training's picking up for toddler, which he's in the 95th percentile, so he's heavy. So picking him up, squatting down, and walking 4 to 8 miles a day. That's my training for the ultra endurance events. And then we're also having genuine, deep conversations regularly. Not every day has to be like that, but regularly we're having that. Sometimes we're just cutting up and talking shit. It is what it is. But that type of movement has been so beneficial across the board, not just with my own ultra events, but also with the quality of life of my son. Is just awesome because he's in creek every day, he's outside all the time. And then my relationship with my wife, we connect on that level. So oftentimes people think they need to like reinvent their life to get their marriage back on track, whatever. I'm like, try a walk. Like, just try a walk.
That uninterrupted time, and I love the symbology of facing the same direction, going toward it together, shoulder to shoulder, rather than sitting across a table, and just that atmosphere alone can change maybe the nature of the conversation. And it's funny you were talking about how initially you were working through things with her, maybe being a little bit more reactive to the problems that you had as you guys started walking more, but now it's proactive. It's something that you're guarding for multiple benefits. For You said Ambrose is his name?
Yeah, Ambrose.
Great name. Um,
Strong
ve
name. Yeah, it's a good name.
very strong name, absolutely. So for him, for you getting the miles that you need in for your physical training, but most importantly, for your relationship with your wife, so you both can show up for Ambrose together on the same page. And when you have that guarded time each day, I have the same thing with my wife now. We try to set aside time, which it gets more challenging the more kids you have, by the way, but you figure it out, you adapt, or you have these great practices already in place where the kids get to go out and do something beneficial for them while you have those deep conversations, because it's so easy to get caught in a rut and then just go through the motions, do all the things that you have to do for the family, whether it's happening right now or preparing for the next day, the next meal, whatever it may be. But that guarded time where you just get to be fully present with one another, it is therapeutic. And when you develop those skills, where we joke the same all the time, where my best counselor is my wife. But those conversations are not productive if you're not both willing to be vulnerable and speak honestly, empathetically, from a place not defensively, but from, hey, this is where things are. This is what I'm observing. Where are we on the same page? Where are we different? And you mentioned your retreats with other men. I want to go back to that because you talked about being vulnerable together. In my experience too, not only personally, but working with other men, that vulnerability piece and talking about the previous hard things in their life, whether it's from their childhood, losses and failures that they've had. For me, have lost a few children, and having conversations, not only writing about it, having conversations, but the more I'm vulnerable, the more it opens up other men to be vulnerable. And that's a big barrier for us, in my opinion. And I know for me and my wife, I would not be as vulnerable. I would keep that guard up with her to give this appearance of strength, appearance of being able to handle anything, to make her be more confident in me. But the more I've been vulnerable with her, the more we connect. So I love that that's a focal point of your retreats, and you're not in the water crying together, like you said, but you are finding ways to not only do hard things, but talk about those really hard things that have happened or are happening in your life. And that is a hard thing that I think is such an opportunity for so many people.
Yeah, man. The hard thing is not typically climbing the mountain. The hard things is like opening up and being honest. Honesty is a precursor to humility. So first I need to be honest with like, hey, I got a problem, like sin's a condition I have. And then I'm a Christian, so like I need a savior. Like this is where I draw. Like I'm under strain. Everything I try to do doesn't really work. I obviously need a savior. I need to be connected to the vine. So when we're first honest in these experiences, then guys can start being humble. They can start having humility of like where they're actually broken down. I do like to add this in here though, and this is not for everybody, but this is a philosophy that I have. Like men are more willing and open to be vulnerable with me because I'm tough, because I'm not a sissy. Like they just see me doing hard things. Like they see me living it. Like if someone's like, "Oh, you're a sissy," I'm like, "Great, let's fight." Like, let's be gladiators about it then. Like, I'm more that type of it. Like, well, let's wrestle. Like, if you're so tough, then like, let's get down on the ground and see who chokes who out. Like, I think that element of toughness too and grit is missed in like this new wave of therapy and like defining masculinity. I'm like, you're wrong, man. Like, men are fucking tough, dude. I and every man, by the way, is tough. I've gotten in some, I do that, like I said, and I wrestle someone who I think's a sissy, and I'm like, oh man, kick my ass. Like all of a sudden, you're like, this guy's tougher than you think. We're all got a little bit of toughness to us. So all this to say, like, we need to be tough. We need to be strong. We need to be bared down. Like, we need to plant roots. But I think to embody the full masculine presence, it has to work with the feminine presence. Empathy, gentleness, kindness. My wife's always like, you're so tender to me. You're so tender to my needs. Like softness is a virtue. It's like it's a power. Being gentle, being kind, being easy. Like I don't need to be the hammer all the time. Like I can be the screw gun. I can be the tape measure. I got a lot of tools in my tool belt that I don't just need to throw the same thing at it. And I find this often too, and if this is you, Kyle, like whatever, but this is something I see with some people, like they're so competitive. They're like they want their kids to be the best in sports, and then they're playing Monopoly, and they're like, gotta win and stuff. I was like, dude, I'm still competing as a middle-aged dude, 34, whatever, young middle-aged dude. I'm still competing. So like, I don't care if they're good at sports or not. Like, if they are cool, if they want to go surf and be a beach bum, let's go to Costa Rica. Like, I'm just down to move with whatever they want. And when we're playing games, I don't care to lose in any game. Like, my identity is not formed in that. Like, I'm not overly competitive. And I also find that type of nature of being like overly competitive is an insecurity. So like being overly tough is an insecurity, right? Because if I would touch softness, and I see it with my really tough masculine friends when I'm leading Bible study, and a dude who doesn't, cry, like starts getting into the moment, and he's like, he doesn't want it to happen because it feels like weakness, where I see it as like, no, that's actually strength. Now you don't have to cling to this version of your identity. You can just flow with it. And don't get it twisted. There's a moment and a place for everything. And you can't be walking around as a dude just crying. But there is an environment that can be facilitated to let that emotion flow through you, which I actually believe is more strength for a man. So I say all this in nuanced, right? Like sometimes people may read my message and be like, oh, he's overly tough, or he made my message, he's overly soft. And I'm like, no, I think that lives in harmony together. Like it can be both of those things. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is actually the easy thing, to let the emotion come, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be still, to not be on the phone. Like sometimes the hardest thing that I've recognized in leading men, and really myself, the hardest thing is not addition, Kyle. The hardest thing is subtraction. It's letting go. Like that's the real hard thing.
Dichotomies to all things. And I am very much with you on everything you just said. Old Kyle was super competitive in all domains. So whether I was playing Monopoly, whether I was playing ping pong with my dad, or of course the sports that I was doing, it, if I didn't win, I felt it on the inside. I got better at being a good loser on the outside, but inside the fire was still going like, oh my goodness. So I've grown quite a bit in that area, not only personally, but in my expectations for my kids. Thankfully, this happened before I became a father. And of course, you see it in your kids where you play that game of cards or whatever it may be. War is a big game that we're playing right now, and so emotional when you don't win. And and so teaching them how to lose well, and where that competitive spirit is of benefit, and where it is not needed. But expectations and what they do, I couldn't agree with you more. Whatever role they want to pursue in this world, just doing that with your best effort, being the best version of that role that you can be. I don't care if you're the 3-sport athlete or what you do. Are you just giving your best effort with a good attitude? and showing up, and that's all I care about, and then I want to be a part of it with you in whatever way you'll have me. So respect to you for being there as a very competitive person. But that dichotomy piece, it's a big one that I think about quite a bit too. So are you either a tough guy or a soft guy? Well, hopefully you're both, based on the situation that it demands of you. Are you selfish or are you selfless? Hopefully both. If you're never looking out for yourself, how are you going to be able to look out for other people? So how can we kind of think about not being excessive in one domain compared to its counterpart, but have aspects of both and be able to meet it there? Because all of us do lean one way or another. But I love your point about the fact that you are a tough guy allows other people to be more comfortable being vulnerable of all backgrounds and all types. Because if you are just appearantly or actually a soft individual, then that is just going to come with a connotation, an expectation, and maybe teach his own, maybe differences in that person when it comes to appearances and dealings with apparently or actually tough guys. So again, comfort and ability to swing between these different domains and be actually tough and vulnerable is important. So I really like that addition. You mentioned at the end subtraction being way harder than addition. And I did know, I told you I don't have prepared questions, but I obviously have read your work for over a year. So I had a lot of things that I want to talk to you about. That 5 days in darkness. So kind of subtracting everything, all stimulus, all sensory inputs as much as possible, and just sitting in solitude. Tell me about that experience, how hard that was, and kind of what you gathered from that.
Man, so the first time I did the 5 days of darkness, I had just left the conference. So we had over 100 people in attendance. The conferences are very hard for me because I'm hosting, but then I keynote at the end. And I say my worst talks are at my own conference. It's like we're the shit by the end. I'm like, oh, where am I going? So it just got to die to the ego a little bit. But most of my people who are there are friends, so they're always like, man, Zach, you did good, but Ash is really good. My wife speaks. She's also a speaker, so she speaks, and we have other speakers there too, whatever. But I just left the conference, and usually that's the best time, Kyle, to promote your stuff. The buzz online, you got over 100 people there. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's having a great time. Ice baths, professional pictures and videos. Like, it's a great time to promote the next. And I share with you actually off air, but I'll share now. Like, I'm way less active on social than what I used to be. And I used to have a podcast and we did well. And I'd stopped doing it because I felt like a monkey banging tambourines. So I was kind of just performing for people. And I was like, that's not me, man. I'm a coal miner from West Virginia, for crying out loud. This is just not me. So I had to get regrounded. So I kind of felt like as I'm hosting the conference and all these events and stuff, I kind of felt a little bit of that energy coming back into me. And I said, nope. So I got a hold of this guy about a year before, and I got this retreat book. They're tough to get in. They're sold out for 3 years. So I'm emailing him every day. I'm like, dude, you should really figure this out for me and let me come out here. I would be a great fit for your, retreat or whatever. So you're by yourself in this. So anyways, I leave the conference when I was supposed to be promoting the next one. I'm like, no, I need it, a momentum shift. I need to get an interception, if you will, on defense. I got to change the momentum. So I go out there, and the first 2 days, it's a challenge for me. He told me 70% of people turn the lights on or need to go, because you can't do that if you want, and you need to go outside because they get, caught in thought loops and stuff. And okay, not me. So I'm viewed as a challenge. I'm like, I'm getting through this. And then something happened, man. After you're destimulated, and after there's no sound either. You can't hear anything. And then something happened where I just kind of cracked open like an egg. And I was vulnerable, even prior to this, but this just opened up a new softness inside of me, and just laid on the floor, man. I was just praying, and it just was no longer a challenge to me. It was these new emotions really started to manifest within me. And I started recognizing that so much of what I was doing anxiously. If you were to ask me a week prior to that, are you anxious, Zach? I go, anxiousness is for sissies. I ain't anxious. I ain't any weak emotion, damn it. I am not that. Then I'm like, you do everything out of scarcity. You're not doing things now to maybe to work to success, or maybe even times to help people. You're actually doing things because who would you be if you weren't helping people? Who would you be if you wasn't having success? And so I was doing things out of a push energy rather than like being pulled to my goals. So, or like my values or the things that I wanted to like inject into the world. So I started recognizing that more and more, and in through that experience, so it's profound to me. And then I came out on the other side, and immediately I was met with a real life example. My wife and my mom was actually here in town with my wife while I was there, and we were having conversations, and there was some adversity that hit our family. And it was the first time I got to try on, like, the next version of myself, or a new layer of myself, if you will. And I, through that experience, I learned to not take things personally. So maybe my mom's dealing with an issue with another one of my siblings or whoever, right? Her husband, like whatever, and she's sharing it with me, and I might just immediately get angry for her. You ever get angry for somebody?
All
Oh
the
man,
time.
nothing says I don't see you like getting angry for someone. Kyle's like, man, my wife's I didn't cook dinner tonight. And I'm like, that's bullshit. You're like, dude, I'm the one who's hungry. It's like you like shadow the other person when you take it and you make it about you.
Yeah.
So if you tell me a problem you have and I then try to relate with you on it, what it actually does is say it's not it's now my problem. So in the dark, I learned how to like detach from that in a sense, or to not just be all that. So I got to try it on as soon as I got home, and it was profound for our family. And that's what I learned from the first time in the experience, which was awesome. And then the second time I went, which is this February, again for 5, 6 days, I had I had learned so much because I'm such a builder and a goal setter. And like, I'm always thinking, when I get this, then I'll feel it. Like, then I'll be this. And it's like, it's always this. But once you get there, have you ever noticed this, Kyle? Once you get there, there moves. There's never here. It's always there.
There's never
So,
here.
so I'm wrestling with discontentment always. Like, dude, I have more things than I could have ever dreamed about. I'm telling you, I'm living a life that I couldn't have dreamt of. And yet it's never enough. And it's this form of discontentment, and almost like I realize like spitting on the face of God of what he's offering me and what he's done for me already. So that second time in the dark was not a challenge for me. It was just sitting and being. And I learned so much more about myself and uh, energetically how I move on a day-to-day basis, anxiousness, stress, worry, doubt, scarcity, and just like more secure in who I am and understanding, more secure in and recognizing that I'm a child of God. Jesus loves me, man, and I'm here, and I can walk at my own pace, and everything that's happening right here is a divine moment. So if I want something outside of that moment, who do I expect to get it from? If God gives me breath, if God gives me this moment, where do I expect to find peace outside of a moment that he's ordained for me? So that second experience, I would say it just really strengthened my faith a lot. It changed the pace of my life a lot. Hell, we've been trying to do this podcast now for like months, and I'm like, and people are like, you must be so busy. I'm like, I'm not busy. I just don't overcommit myself to things, and I just kind of go at a different pace now. And a lot of that came and stemmed from the darkness, man. When you're just stripped down and you have nothing, no visual sight, nobody liking your Substacks, no wife telling you you're doing a great job, no book to make you feel good for a second. You're just left with some raw emotion, and it's wild in there, man. I tell you, darkness. I'm familiar with the darkness from the coal mines, but darkness has shades of darkness, and silence has different vibrations. There's different vibrations to silence, but we never really get to experience it because we never shut up, right? We never close our eyes long enough. We never put ourselves in a place to be quiet and still. And then on the other side of that, it's kind of like this. You've been eating, I can tell you eat really healthy. You look great. You got that Chad jaw on you. You got the the bulky shoulders there. You look
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you.
You can do 100 burpees or 1,000 burpees in an hour. By the way, we want to do that. I could tell you eat healthy. Tell me what happens, bro. You're on a road trip and you stop and get McDonald's. How bad do you feel? It's
Awful.
like
Yep.
when you eat healthy for so long, you become very sensitive. It's like sensitive. Like you're really sensitive to bad food. Well, when you're in the dark for so long and when you're in stillness for so long, when you come out and you enter into stimulation, you're really sensitive to it. Um, Maybe someone watching this, I'm also like to dabble with some mushrooms. I haven't in a while, but I do love mushrooms. I've done ayahuasca ceremonies in the jungle, sweat lodges. Like I've really done it all. Jesus is the way. But I've done all these things. Like I really like to explore things. But when you're like on a hero dose of mushrooms, man, you're not trying to fight nobody. Like you're soft and relaxed and chilling. And it would be like this if Kyle was trying to beat up on me. The darkness is like that. It's a very soft, feminine, and even like sexual energy about it, in the dark. People are like scared of it, but there's really nothing to be scared of in there. Like, oh, I'd go crazy. And I'm like, oh, like whose thoughts are that then if you go crazy? Because like oftentimes I start realizing in those moments that a lot of the things I think about is because of things I've consumed. They're not actually my thoughts. So I have to start like now I've become more sensitive to content and just like the world. So it's a good thing. There's a quote I love. It says, "It's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society."
Yeah.
Oh, it's just like, oh yeah, how you doing? Busy. Like, when was the last time you took a Sabbath? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
When was the last time you had nothing on the calendar and didn't say, "Oh yeah, I can do that," because there's nothing on the calendar? So it taught me, a long story short, it kind of taught me all that in a sense, almost made me like more sensitive to stimulation. And I don't excel in this, by the way. So I hope no one hears it like I'm like some floating guru here because I'm not. I still get on my phone too much. I still do certain things that I was talking to my wife last night. And I'm like, I need to push back a little bit. I was like, I've been kind of grinding out a little bit on some things. I was like, I can feel it in me and I don't like where that's trending. I don't want to be the dude who has a midlife crisis, man. Like, I already got a bunch of tattoos, but I don't know, maybe get tattoo on my face or something. Like, I don't want to be that guy who has a midlife crisis. So I'm always like pacing myself on that.
The sensitivity piece and the fact that you've developed that, whether it's using technology too much, not moving enough, all of these productive pursuits that we endure, the benefit of it, and it can be a detriment too, because like you work out a lot, obviously, I do too. And if I go a day and I don't work out at all intentionally. Now I can still move passively, I can live actively, but I feel myself sometimes like I had an hour block plan and work got in the way, or the kids didn't nap, or whatever it might be. That aches in me. I still want to get it in some way, and it pulls me away. So that my body feels jittery, but also my mind's like I want to get that in, but I need to block myself from that. So like there's a benefit to that sensitivity in that you want to keep eating healthy. You want to use your technology less because now you're sensitive to how much you're using it. But at the same time, I find myself like if I don't check those boxes, I don't do those things, it somehow is counterproductive for again why I'm doing it in the first place. Dude, you said so many things, so many powerful quotes like "there isn't here," or "here isn't there." And the different shades of darkness, the lessons from those retreats, and you brought up psychedelics, you brought up mushrooms and ayahuasca. The way you were describing some of the benefits of both your first and second reminded me of talking to many friends that I have who have pursued those experiences as well. I'm still active duty, so I have not done those experiences, but it's fascinating to see, even in the past 10, 12 years that I've been in the Navy, um, not only the research behind psychedelics, but just the use of them, and then looking at the history of them, some of the beneficial aspects that they can produce, particularly with people that have had PTSD, trauma in the past, but also just people that are looking for opportunities for growth. But the fact that you did that silence and darkness retreat first for those 5 days, you approached it like a challenge, and that resonated quite a bit too. So you went there, I am not going to be one of those 70%. I'm going to be of the 30, and I'm going to do it well. I can do anything hard, and I will do this for sure. But then naturally throughout it, it became less of a challenge. And I think that's beautiful symbology there for the benefit of taking on hard challenges. But the goal of that training is to eventually make what was initially challenging no longer a challenge. And then, of course, there isn't here and here isn't there. So you get to there and now you're here. So what other hard thing can I do that is challenging to make it no longer a challenge? How can I grow from that? But at the same time, being present and enjoying what God has given us throughout all of it, which is what you learned in the second. So those lessons sound like some people I've talked to have done ayahuasca, like these realizations of the emptiness inside them, these opportunities, the too much addition, not enough subtraction. It sounded psychedelic. Did you feel kind of similar based on particularly ayahuasca experiences that are heroic doses of mushrooms? Have you had other realizations from those journeys that you did from the 5 days in darkness?
Yeah. with the mushrooms was kind of like a thing in my early 20s, and through my 20s, I would do them regularly for the most part, like not a few times a year, which I think if you've ever done them, that's very regularly. If you do it more than that, you're like in a different world all the time. Um, that like opened my mind to things. It just like basically like opened my mind to things. I was more like open and receptive to like different ideas and perspectives, and like I'm very inclusive, man. Like to everybody. Like I just am. Like even if I have my own belief system, I'm just as fucked up as the rest of y'all. Like we're all the same down here. So I've always been pretty inclusive. Mushrooms supported that. And then I did ayahuasca before I went to the dark. That brought a softer energy out of me. Um, which I probably was always there in some sense. Like my wife's always like, I get a version of you no one does, like because I'm like cuddly and I think all dudes are like that personally with their wives. But I like being a little spoon sometimes, man. It's all good. So I get this I get a softer energy from the ayahuasca, which was wonderful. The sweat lodge was crazy, man. The sweat lodge broke me. It about killed me. We did a 3-hour sweat lodge, which is just it revealed a whole lot about me. Like that was one of the most profound because you did a ceremony, sweat lodge, ceremony. It was just, you're kind of out there. We did combo too, which is frog poison. Stupid, by the way. I'll never do that again. Like, why get poisoned by a frog? Like, it's so stupid. So some of this stuff's hippy dippy, man. I think it's retarded, and I've just built my own perspectives off doing things. Like, if someone says breath work works because of XYZ physiological reason, I don't care about the physiological reason. I just go do it. If someone says ice baths work or don't work, I just go do them. I did an ice bath every day for almost a year, and I'd fill it to the top with just ice. I do 20, 30 minutes, man. I need to test myself, and I don't really care about the physiological benefits of anything. I'm more concerned with just like what's happening mentally to me and how am I adjusting to that. So yes, in the ayahuasca ceremonies as well, I felt like that tenderness and softness. I will say this though, like, and I'm not an advocate for any of these things, by the way, or I'm not like I don't support them or not support them. It's the individual needs to make his or her own choices of everything in life. I'm very like independent in that nature, but I must say that it's really hard for me to take back lessons from those experiences because there's so much happening. And it's 3-dimensional. Like you're in a different dimension essentially, and you might take back an aura, a feeling like, oh, I touched a softer feeling, and now I'm gonna embody that in my day-to-day life. But like perspectives, like dude, like post ayahuasca ceremony is like crazy. I got aliens working on me and shit. Like it was this weird, thing. And I'll try to explain like this guy's his brain broke, like that might be a thing. So it's like it's hard for me to say that like that's the way to like healing and to growth because I just don't believe it's true.
Yeah.
I believe it can support it. I think some people overhype it. I think some people underhype it. And I think other people get different things from it. The darkness, on the other hand, it's no external substance. Like, you don't eat or digest anything. And when you're there, they feed you like vegan food through a double door. So you're really basically just not even eating for the whole week. I had to bring my own mangoes and, and strive beef jerky the last time. So anyways, the darkness though is different because I took everything with me. Like when I left the dark, you can't run from things in there, man. It just gets re-brought up because you can't distract yourself. So there's no external stimulation like taking ayahuasca or mushrooms, but there is the consistent darkness. It's always present. There's a consistent silence. It's always present. So I was able to take just so much more from that experience back with me and integrate it, which is now why when I have the opportunity, like last year I had the opportunity to go back to Costa Rica for ayahuasca or to go out to Oregon for the darkness. I went to the darkness. I'm kind of in the season of life that if I'm going to take a week away, I'm going to be totally alone, like so alone that there's not even light. Because that's how profound it was for me. So that's my perspective across the board on all of those things. I'm not, like I said, a huge advocate of anything. If I'm being honest, man, you want to change your life, you read this thing right here. It's like 2,000 years old. It's the Bible, and it's the most profound things you ever reads inside this book. This is the way to eternal life and salvation. Everything outside of that, a lot of my hardcore Christian friends like think I'm crazy because I'm a demon because I went and did drugs in the jungle. And hey, man, that's cool. I'm not offended when they say that. And then my hippie friends are like, dude, the Bible says X, Y, Z. I'm like, you don't even read it, man. Just read the book. But the Bible also is like it explains spiritual warfare is a real thing, man. And I've just used all these different tools to combat the real enemy of the world is not Kyle or some guy talking shit to me on Twitter. Those aren't the enemies of the world, man. It's spiritual warfare. There's just greater powers at work, and it's my own mind, man. That's the enemy. Like there's people are like follow your heart. I'm like, don't do that because my heart be doing some crazy shit. My heart wants some crazy things. You mean to tell me that you've never lusted before? And if I just followed I saw a cute girl walking down the street and I looked at her. If I followed my heart, I'd be divorced, dude. Don't follow your heart. You got to also use logic with things. And oftentimes, though, like the gut, heart, gut, whatever you want to call it, it can lead you in the right direction. But I believe that you need to be in the Lord's word. You need to be sober of mind when you're making decisions. And I'm real slow to make decisions. And I think that all of those past experiences have aided in that. But all that to say, to bring that full circle, man, is oftentimes I get caught up on these mushrooms and psychedelic things that people think I'm that guy. I'm not that guy. Uh, I'm a
No,
Christian. And that's the guy. That's the guy I want to be known for. Is I'm faithful as I can be, trying to be to the Lord Jesus Christ. And outside of that, man, I've used other tools to help me get closer, but I don't think those tools are necessary for everybody. It was just my walk.
well explained, man. The comparisons between darkness, psychedelic, but also just there's no one right way for everybody. So whether you're a person that is a proponent of one thing or another, what you're doing, I often is less important than how and why you're doing it over time. And that mind, body, spirit connection that you alluded to. Like we just trust our heart that we're going to be led astray. If we just go straight logic and we're not listening to our heart and our spirit, that's spiritual warfare. That concept, I love that. And talking to our priest, he'll do a Q&A, and we sit down for coffee and donuts after church, and he talks about different virtues from the Bible. There's this really good book called The Way by Joseph Escriva, Father Joseph Escriva, and it's just full of these amazing quotes on these different virtues. And we were talking spiritual warfare recently, and reason was one thing that came out of it, but also like, how are we even examining our conscience? How are we listening to our spirit? And I can't think of it a better way. Like you'll hear some people say psychedelics are the way, or go on these long, arduous endurance event type. And don't get me wrong, that can absolutely be it. But hearing you talk about darkness, and because I have never done much, the hardest thing for me to do, by the way, is nothing. So like when I have that sacred time to myself in the morning, the evening, during nap, that's when I'm going to get after it in some way. And that might be sauna, that might be training of whatever type, that's reading, that's writing. And then the thought of doing nothing for an hour, let alone for 5 days, that is like such an opportunity for me. But what can come from it to truly understand what's going on in our spirit and our mind, and then start to sit there, because you can't run from it unless you're the 70% that do. But if you stay the 30% that stay in the darkness, you can really start to derive some opportunities that you can take back with you. And really well explained, brother. And you ending with being a Christian, that comes across in your writing. You're speaking obviously like it does today. Has that been lifelong? Is that something that you found more recently?
No, before I get to that real quick, one thing, dude, about like the hardest thing to do is nothing at all. Like how
Yeah.
you shared that. Somebody would tell me, "Hey, man, I'll think about it." Maybe it's in a sales call, like whatever it is. I'll think about it. I said, "How much? How much you gonna think about it?" Like people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it." How much? How long? Oftentimes we say we're gonna think about things, but we don't do anything to think about them. We just wait for 2 hours or 3 days, and then we just make the decision out of nowhere. So I started conditioning myself. If I'm gonna think about it, I go and I read. I love to read fiction. I'm reading The Alchemist again for like the 50th
Ugh,
time. I love that book. I'm sure
the
you do
best.
too.
The
So I'm
best.
reading it, and after I read, I'm reading my fiction before I go to bed. And then I just sit. I usually put my sleep mask on. If my wife's still reading, little red lights going, I put my sleep mask on. I just lay there, man, and I just think about it, like whatever. And I just let my mind pursue thoughts and ideas. And I don't meditate. I think meditation's crazy. I just think it's the craziest thing to sit down and say, I'm not going to think. I'm like, well, now you're thinking about not thinking. It's called metacognition. Metacognition is our ability to think about our thoughts. You got metacognition knowledge. I know that I can do that. And then you have regulation. Metacognition regulations. I think about my thoughts and I choose what thought I want to express. So when I sit down and I meditate, I'm not thinking. I'm like, you're thinking about not thinking. So how I've meditated is I sit down and I think about it. And then eventually there's nothing to think about. And you're just there. there was like no way to get there. It was actually always there. It was always present. Clarity of mind, stillness, peace is already in us. So when we're stimulated externally by an experience and then we feel at peace, clear, whatever, happy, joy, sadness, those emotions live inside of us. They're stimulated externally and then they well up with internally. But that also means that whatever any external experience is happening, I can recognize that, well, hey, the world can be on fire, but since I've had peace inside of me, it can be here now, even with the world on fire. Holy Spirit, man, Jesus, like that's the Lord working through us. So I can recognize that things can be happening out here, but I can be different in here. To bring this full circle on the meditation idea, though, I've recognized that if I sit down and try to not think, I think. But if I sit down to think about it, I stop thinking eventually.
Yeah.
So I think there's like some benefits in that. What was your question, by the way?
So, being a Christian, if that's been lifelong, if that's something you found more recently.
Nah, man, I was a shithead. I was a total shithead. Dude,
We've all been there.
I was so ornery growing up, man. My friends and I, there was like these like apple trees. This guy had these apple trees, and we would just go up on the hillside and throw apples at cars. Like we were just like bad kids, man. Vandalizing, blowing up people's mailboxes with that 80s. Like we were such shitheads. And like I loved women, man. Like before my wife, I was just, out there. And I remember my pastor one time, he was asking me, he's like, so are you like, practicing celibacy now that you and he know my wife and I said, man, you know how hot she is. He's like, I love that you're on. But I also was like, listen, God knows I used to be with a bunch of women, but now I'm only with one woman. I'm working on it, dude. Like I'm trying my best. And that's just a joke, by the way. I'm always trying to, live righteously. But I was a shit, man. And so much so that I just didn't know the Lord, and my wife and I she would go to church on Sundays and I just wouldn't go. But I believed in a higher power. Like I knew, and I would call him God.
Yeah.
I didn't call him Jesus. I didn't know that Jesus was the way and the truth. I've heard of this Jesus guy, but I'm like, listen, if another dude can come to earth to do it, I can do it. Like I was so prideful of idolatry, man. It just was what it was. And that was true to me. But one day I kind of, run into a brick wall, and my wife and I are up all night arguing. 2016, and she gets up in the morning. She's always going to church, and I'm like, I'm coming. Like I knew it. Like something needed to change. Like I needed a supernatural change to my wife's a strong woman. She's not going to be with a loser. That was like one driving force of me. But also I was like, I could tell my spirit was eroding without having a North Star. And I went there that day, man. The pastor delivered a wonderful message. Whatever it was that day, it was for me, and I needed to hear it. And I just kept going. I just kept going to church. Like, let me learn about this. I started reading that Bible more and more. Not just, I love Proverbs. I always start everyone out at Proverbs. I'm like, if you like Substack and Twitter, just read Proverbs, because everyone's just pulling their content from Proverbs. So I read Proverbs. I'm like, okay, this is good. Then I started reading the Gospels, and I started getting into them. And then I started realizing like who Jesus was. And I started looking. I like to read his teachings, but what I really do, since I'm such a physical person, I like to read about how he lived his life.
Mm-hmm.
And how he was like consistently interrupted intentionally. And then after you do something big. So one of the reasons why I went to the dark after Jesus feeds the 5,000, which is way cooler than a Do Hard Things conference. And the 5,000 was just men. So it's like women and children too, like 15,000 people with like a few loaves of bread, some fish. And then he leaves, he evacuates, he gets out of there. He goes to the mountainside like he always does to pray, to be alone. So that his pace of life was really attractive to me. I was like, okay, like, I'm realizing the way that this guy's living is just different. It's upside down. The things he's saying is different. It's upside down. Hardest thing in the world, man, is to return love for hate, but not sarcastically. Not like, oh, I'll pray for you. No, it's like the truth. Like, dude, I love you anyways, man. Like, that's the hardest thing. That's what he's calling us to do. And I'm like, and I start practicing the things, and I start mimicking the way that he's living his life. And I realize like it's a hard thing for me. So great. Like I love doing hard things. But also B, I be coming up short all the time. And that's when I started realizing my need for Jesus. And I think 2017 I got baptized, and I've been an imperfect Christian ever since, but I've been a Christian, man. I'm a diehard. I love Jesus. I love what he's doing in my life and my community's life. And I'm not perfect in it by any stretch of the imagination, which I feel like as a Christian, you don't even need to say that. Like it's just obvious. But it's the foundation of the things that I'm doing and who I want to be.
Beautiful. Yeah, if you've never been a shithead to some capacity for some amount of time, you're not human. Some of us have just spent a longer amount of time being a shithead, as I have too, particularly in my younger years. And I for sure have struggled with. I've always believed deeply in God, a higher power, a reason for all of this, and whatever that explanation of God may be. I didn't raised baptized Catholic, raised that way, and then went through my shithead years for sure. Never stopped losing faith in a higher power, but got away from defining God. And a while ago, I heard a definition from a bishop that, like, the simplest definition of God is love. And then you look at the way Jesus lived and the Gospels, and like you, the quotes are great. I love quotes. I love powerful quotes for sure, but those quotes mean nothing if you don't understand how that person is living behind them. Because we can all say something powerful, and then you go off and you do something completely opposite of that, and zero credibility. So even though the quote, if you embody it yourself, but it's that way, those actions behind it, and yeah, God is love. Jesus showed love in response to all forms of oppression, hate, love for others, love of self. I mean, it's funny, you talked about your retreat that you left before promoting all your shit and you went off to the 5 days in darkness. Jesus feeds 5,000, goes off, prays for a while, but understanding how he lived and how he responded to all of the situations, whether it was of Jewish people, people following him, or people that were non-believers, it did not matter. He treated everyone the way you would want to be treated. He showed the way, and there's so much that can be learned through those examples. And remembering coming back to the power of love. And if you can genuinely find love, that's going to overshadow all other emotions that we have. So getting back to that orientation as much as possible, what a great challenge that you can take on until it becomes less challenging, like all these other hard shit that we do. That is a great challenge. We come to these assumptions. We have a hard time with the people we care about, or name said person that doesn't treat you so well. And then we jump to rationalizing or emoting rather than, man, how can I get to love first? Of course, we need to make sure we maintain safety of ourselves and others. But man, more often than not, most people having a hard time are giving you a hard time or just having one. That empathy, that reason to get soft in love, that another thing that comes across not only in how you explain your faith in your writing, you're doing it beautifully today and talking, but how you explain how you live, that love piece to come there, that makes everything better.
Mm. I got to mention that's so well said, Kyle. I have a I was actually reading this morning, right before Jesus was going to the cross, choosing to go to the cross. And he goes, I have my last commandment for you, love each other. Like his last commandment is not a new one, but he goes, I have a new commandment for you, to love each other. And I just love that because it's so hard. Like some of y'all make it so hard to love you. Like some of these people, like you're making it hard on me, dude. But it's so good. My mentor, he's actually the dude who hosts the Darkness stuff. Which by the way, the Darkness things are great. Like that's where Aaron Rodgers went. Like it's a pretty legit thing. And he says, Zach, what if what was most important was most gentle, most kind, most tender, most soft? Like, what if that was most important? Because oftentimes, if we feel threatened, like unloved, which means we're threatened, right? We believe what's most important is security in that moment. So I need to be dominant to earn that back or to get that back or to feel secure. He's like, flipped it on me. He's like, well, what if it was most important was what's most gentle, kind, soft, attributes of love? And that really helped point me to the Lord, to Christ, and how he paces his life and how he mimics his life. And I think that's a really good like a perspective maybe or idea is like, well, when your wife's in tension with you and she's saying whatever she's saying, what if what was most important for you in that moment was to be gentle, soft, tender, kind, loving? Like what if that was the most important thing? Because oftentimes, at least myself included, if my wife's bickering at me about something, I want to be like right, even if I'm literally in the wrong. The most important thing for me is like, no, she's missing the mark here because my intention wasn't that. And because my intention wasn't that, I need to meet her here. So like, what if instead it was just being like, wow, like she received it that way. Let me be tender, loving, kind, gentle, soft with her. Like, man, I hear you, babe. Like, I probably was being a shithead. Like, knowing who I am, I could also be honest with myself to know that I'm a shithead sometimes. And I can just be honest and meet that tenderly, lovingly, kindly. And man, it changes the vibe. I'm running the other day, dude. We're always on walks and running, but I'm running by myself the other day, and some dude's coming up. I'm all tattooed. He'd all tattooed. Like, we just look like these guys who are out here robbing the place. The cops always brake check when they go by to make sure I'm not stealing something. But I see this guy and I point at him, and he like gives me this look, and I just hold my hand out to knuck him. And dude, his bro's like this, cheesy. Sometimes, dude, that's all we need is someone to encourage us, to love on us, to be kind, to be gentle. I don't gotta feel like insecure because he's more jacked than me running. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can just return like love with that. Like, he might have looked at me like a little threatened or whatever. The presence that we can put off as men, but like just to soften that up a little bit, everyone cheeses. Uh, the hard will always yield to the soft. Have you ever noticed, like, when your wife, if you're trying to be hard with her and she's soft with you, you're like, you just melt. You're
Yeah.
like, it'll always yield to it, man.
Dude, I just see, do your knuckles say love on them?
Yeah, ironically.
What a better like no better reason to bust knuckles to everybody than showing love both.
I need the reminder, bro. I need the reminder.
That's amazing. I love busting the rock with people, but man, for it to say love across it, now you're sending the message both physically and so they can read it at the same time. That's so good. That competitive spirit we talked about and the benefit of it when applied to certain domains, I used to apply it. Like, I would pride myself on winning arguments. Like, I was so good at debating and winning arguments, but really people just probably got tired of me jabbing at them and talking a bunch of shit and just like whatever. And then I would think I'd win, but I would do that in my relationships too. And I did that with my wife when we were dating early in our marriage, and come to that realization, man, you don't win arguments, particularly with the ones that you care about most. That's a lose situation if you're coming at it with it. And to approach with softness, tenderness, and gentleness, empathy, and most importantly, all of this is just love and trying to see their perspective, trying to understand where they're coming from. That shift has allowed me to be softer in our conversations. And a virtue we talked about recently after church was mortification. Do I still feel that shit bubbling up inside of me sometimes where like, man, if we're doing the comparison game right now, I'm always going to take some accountability. I might be 5% in the wrong here, but you're 95% in the wrong. And like, that's what I want to say out loud. Like, no, die inside. That part of you can die right now and actually might grow bigger later as far as the beneficial aspects of that seed. But all those emotions, all that defensiveness and wanting to be right, that's not right now. Let's just talk. Let that die for now. And that concept and virtue of mortification is we talk about all the time with our kids. Like, just kids are gonna force that out of you every day. Like, we can actively do things to do it, but passively in our external environment, there's so many opportunities to let the pretense go, let the assumptions go, and man, challenge yourself. How can I show as much love as possible? That good Samaritan mentality, holding the door for people, smiling at people, busting the rock when you go by somebody, no matter what they look like, where they come from, what they believe in. The more you can connect with people and spread love, the better the world will be, the ripples you'll cause, but man, the better your life will be. And you can still be tough, and you can still have self-defense and concealed carry and all these other things for if and when evil arises, for sure. Again, the dichotomy. And so much of what we talked about today, like the excessiveness of one is not if you're just leaning one way, there is no one other than just the general good versus evil. And again, another thing that I love getting when we talk about virtues from church is there's just temptation, how we think about temptation. So like, what is tempting for you might be much different than me, but either one of those could lead us toward our respective evils. And then the more you lean into that vice, the more you get away from virtue. So those concepts for sure, but that what, once again, and who you are, it's how you're doing it, how you're dealing with those temptations. And man, dealing with the people we care about, our spouses, what better place to practice that than the person we love most in this world?
Man, so well said, Kyle. When you're saying about the needed to be right, one thing that I'm continually coming into, like before and now up to this present day is the more I need to be right, the more insecure I am in who I am as an individual. The more secure I am of who I am as an individual, I'm father. I'm a son of the Most High. I'm the father of follower of Christ. Like once I'm secure in who I am as a person, I only need to be right. Like you might be like, Zach, you're an idiot. You're wrong, and I'm like, yep. Like sometimes, like I could also be this. I could be that. I could be an idiot, but also wise. One person thinks I'm dumb. One person thinks I'm wise. So like, who am I then? The worst thing you can do, I realize this, is like, oh wow, Zach, you're the funny guy. Oh, great. Now I believe that every time I'm around you, I could be cracking jokes. Or it's like, oh, wow, Zach, you're the wise guy. Now every time I'm around you, I'm looking up Proverbs before I come talk. It's just like, don't over-identify what people say you are, man, because they'll change your mind real quick, but everyone else has a different perspective of you. So it's just like being secure in who I am relieves a lot of this pressure of having to be right all the time to other people. I love my buddy Alex. He's a brainiac, and he'll look at me. I love him so much. He'll look at me and be like, "That was the stupidest thing I ever heard." I go, "I fucking love you, dude. Like, thank you." Like he just shoots it to me straight. But I don't have to be like insecure in that. It's like, because sometimes I'm stupid, and that's fine. And sometimes I'm wise, and that's fine. Sometimes I'm funny, that's fine. Sometimes I'm serious, that's fine. Just secure in the self, and all of a sudden you don't have to be right all the time or competitive all the time. You can change your mind, and that's cool.
Yeah, it's being human, and it reminds me of what you're talking about from your second darkness retreat. Like just being, like getting away from all these things that we have to do or these roles that we have to play. Like all of these are choices. And how can I just fully be who I am in that moment? Of course, we still want to grow, we want to do hard things, but are you truly being? And yeah, again, you show that in how you live, brother. The last thing I want to hit you with is I know you have 100 miles coming up in September, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100 plus. Hopefully,
100,
more.
100 plus. So is the event just go as long as possible? What is the event? And it's just so cool to think about the transition. And you're not transitioning from just strength athlete to just endurance athlete. Of course, you're still lifting heavy. You're still doing a lot of these amazing things in that realm. You're just expanding your capacity and building endurance. And you've not only shifted into that training, but you've changed your body. You talk a lot about like how you eat, how you sleep, all these things that you focus on, but of course how you train. And you've gone, I think, from like you were up to 240 at one point and you're down to like what, 180 now, 180, 175, which is
Yeah,
wild.
I was 215, man. I'm down to 170, 175. I'm getting skinny. My arms are tiny. But I got goals, man. What actually drives me is not the physical, like not I don't care how I look. Like
Yeah.
I want to be comfortable with my shirt off, right? But those vanity metrics never move the needle for me. What moves the needle is competition. What moves the needle is like the man in the arena vibe.
Yeah.
I can embody that
My
idea.
favorite quote.
What I loved so much growing up, all these dudes had abs and they'd flex in the mirror. Everyone thought they were douchebags. Now the dude who benched 405, everyone stopped and looked at. I'm like, I want to be that dude. I want to be the dude everyone stops and look at. So that's why I started doing strength training. I got to the point where it didn't feel like I'm still being challenged by it, of course, but I didn't feel like it was my challenge. So I switched over. I did a couple Ironmans, half Ironman, full Ironman, ran a couple ultra marathons in 2022. So I said, okay, in the next 10 years, because I'd realized it took me 10 years to set a world record in powerlifting. In the next 10 years, I'll be able to run 100 miles. See, it was a vision of mine. And it's 4 years later, it's now a goal. See, well, a lot of people miss things. They'll set goals that should be visions. So they'll say, oh, my goal is to run 100 miles this year. I was like, that's fine. But in that, like in retrospect, you're going to have to give up a lot of family time and you're going to have to give up a whole lot of time in your career. Where I'm like, if I give myself 10 years, but now I'm close to year 4. I'm able to get this now. It's in sights. If I give myself the proper time, I can move with the ebb and flow of life. Because there'll be certain seasons. We had the Indy 500. I'm drinking beers and smoking heaters. Like I don't drink or smoke, but dude, a good time comes up. I'm like, I'm there. I still got some degeneracy in me. That's like 3 weeks ago, and that's not good training to run 100 miles.
Yeah.
But yet, this last week, I just put out my biggest effort ever this last week because I'm trained up. And I'm in a good spot to be able to accomplish the 100. How the event works, it's you run around in 4.167 miles on the hour. It's only 14-minute miles and some change. It's not hard till it's hard.
Yes.
And it's the last man standing. Last year, a dude ran 150, 160 miles. This year I'm trained up. I'm ready to go far, man, as far as I can go. I'm not going to be egotistical that I can win this. The guy who got second last year is one of my buddies and training partners. You know, you kind of know, like, unless you have a bad day and I have a good day, I'm probably not going to win. But damn it, I'm showing up and I'm ready to compete. I'm ready to go over the 100. Anything can happen in an event that big, but I'm excited about it. I'm encouraged to do it. It was a vision. Now I see it as a goal because it's super close for me. And you know, we'll see what happens. But after, I'm trying to get down to like 162, which is just, you know, 50 pounds from my top. But after that, I was actually sharing with my wife. I was like, I think I'm gonna put a little weight back on, you know, maybe do some bench press, get a little bigger again. So we'll see. You know, the ego hates being skinny, but the mind just wants to go after something that felt. When I first started running, Kyle, I couldn't run a mile because I was a sumo deadlifter and wide stand squatter. So my hips didn't work. So I couldn't run a mile without my hips blowing up. So I've really come a long way and reinvented myself in my training. I'll leave you with this last thing, man. My wife, I share this all the time. My wife's like, "Oh, you're goofy." But I finished the Ironman, and she's so used to seeing me win strongman and powerlifting shows. Like, I win or place in all of them. And I finished the Ironman. She's like, "Babe, you're so awesome. You know, you're always reinventing yourself. You're always doing hard things." I'm like, "Thanks." She's like, "But there was like 100 people over the age of 60 that came in before you." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know." So it's nice to be a beginner and an amateur again because you get the newbie gains, and that's like fulfilling and motivating to keep going. So that's where I'm at right now in my fitness. It's super fun. I might change up in the future. Maybe I'll keep going. Like one thing at a time. All I know is right now, like I want to run far first. And
Yeah.
I'd also be the first person in history. This is stupid, but it matters to me. Who's
I-
ever squatted 705 or 700 plus in a competition?
Yep.
It also ran over 100 miles in a competition. So not in the same day, obviously. And if you think it's the same day, you don't understand fitness that well. But no one's ever done it in a lifetime. There's one other guy attempting it right now. Pete Rubish, his name is, but he hasn't fulfilled on the 100 yet. I might need to go 120 or 130 just to make sure I can qualify it. I'm excited about that. You know, I needed something to get me like, you know, my ego loves that to be a one of one. You know, the ego loves that. But at the end of the day, when I'm walking down the street, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares if I ran 100 miles or squatted it 700. I'm doing it just for me and just to say I did.
Yeah, we'll keep walking the walk, brother, because the why behind why you're doing it to grow yourself for the Christian and man you are in this world, but also for the impacts that you have on others. First and foremost, your family, your community. You have many whys behind what you're doing and how you're doing it, and that's so cool. The authenticity that you have, once again, it's inspiring. So you had with the records that you had in powerlifting, you could have stayed in that realm. You could have stayed a strength athlete and probably gone on to accomplish more records, make a lot of money, keep that podcast and have all the content you have to put out every week for what you were getting paid for that. You could have done all these things and been by metrics and the materialism world we live in, very successful. But you listen to yourself. You embodied doing hard things, and again, those things that you were doing, you had higher reasons for them. So these pivots, these reinventing yourself, that you, at the end of the day, I have no question, sleep very well because you're comfortable in who you are, not only mentally, not only physically, but most importantly, spiritually. And man, I could talk to you all day. There's so many things that I did not bring up in this conversation, but man, for the first time getting to talk to you outside of texting and stuff, it's been an honor, man. It was so good.
Oh, dude, thanks for having me on and accommodating for 6 a.m. I just love when I was like, "Hey, can you do like 6 a.m.?" Like, I'm there. I appreciate you accommodating, just having me on. You ask such great questions, and uh, I will say it makes it really easy to talk to someone who you respect and admire. I love your stuff, like I said, and I will close with this. I think we still need to do the burpee push-up 1 hour challenge.
We do. We do.
Yeah.
We both got into different challenges. I did the Murph stuff the 1 month. I knew you were really into endurance. You invited me in September. I got you in the future, buddy. If you keep doing this year, I don't got you, but I got you in the future because I have been leaning more into endurance, and you were part of that reason for it. You and Windy Bounce. I've been doing more obstacle course race stuff, longer things. So so I'm wearing a Spartan shirt right now, and I'm doing one in a few weeks with my son. So I love this stuff, and just again these. Wow. I'm a smaller guy. I'm your weight right now too. So it's so funny to know how you looked when I first found you. And then a year and a half later, you're my size now, which is hilarious. But endurance is still one of the biggest opportunities for me. And it's people like you, people like Wendy that have encouraged me like, hey, I'm adapted for certain things. Stuff beyond an hour, 2 hours. Yeah, my body needs to get in those miles, but how I get those miles in, again, thank you for showing me it doesn't have to be with dedicated training and solitude. You can get a lot of training in by living actively with the people you love the most. And again, you walk the walk on that, man. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it, Kyle. Thanks, man.
Remember, all the knowledge in the world means little unless you uniquely apply it to your life. Challenge yourself to take action. Knowledge applied is wisdom earned. Determine what is important to you and get after it with intention, effort, and consistency. Until next time, stay resilient, my friends.